Welcome back, everyone, to the Unwritten Earth Symposium podcast, the podcast where we talk about games and game design and play design and all the wonderful things to do in the world of truly true role-playing games. I'm here, as always, with my good friend, Epidai Ravishal.
And I'm here with my good friend, Nathan Paoletta. I feel like we are bringing a very chill energy to this one, a very...
Perhaps a sleepy energy?
Yeah, could be. We've a little lack of slumber, but it's also nice. It's just, I've got a nice little lemonade here, iced. If you hear some ice clinking in the background, ambiance.
You know? Yep.
Yeah.
As we know, our listeners love to hear mouth noises and drinking noises. All of those great things.
Has anyone ever complained?
No. Well, okay, not directly, but I can only imagine.
Yeah.
No, I also tend to try and edit out gratuitous mouth noises. So you're welcome, everyone.
Sound off in the chat. We don't have a chat.
We could have a chat.
Sound off in the Discord.
Yeah, sound off in the Discord. We've talked about, since we now record via Discord, we have talked about one thing we could do. Like, we have the technology, we would just have to choose to do it, is we could have it be an open recording room, I guess, whatever they're called, channel, and people could hang out and be in the chat.
Drop some questions in the chat.
Yeah, and we could have some live interaction. That's not we did our Plus Expenses where we recorded the Discord channel. So that was where everyone was talking, but we could also set it up, I believe, where we're doing this, and then we also have text chat. So
yeah,
that's something we could do, I guess. People would need to, I guess, conform to our schedule in that case. Yeah. So
yeah, and that makes it a little bit more difficult, like, or rather don't want to be, or whatever. None of this matters. Oh, but we technically we are on YouTube.
We are
technically. On YouTube. So you could just write a comment. If you're listening to this, if you're one of the two people who's not Epi who's listened to this on YouTube.
Yep.
I don't think of myself as the type of person that refers to themselves in third person, but clearly I do a lot. And I wonder if that confuses our listeners about which voice they're hearing at any given moment.
I like to think we have pretty distinct voices, but again, I guess
that's true.
One frequent podcast complaint is people not being able to tell hosts apart, and I'd like to think that we don't have that problem, but I guess again, sound off chat.
Yeah.
Our YouTube episodes, which are just the podcast but on YouTube, there's no video. We don't post video, it's just the logo, but the audio is there for all the people who just listen to things on YouTube all the time. You can listen to us as well. Anyway, we vary between 2 and 7 views, with a peak of 16 on our annual episode.
Ooh,
so
nice.
So I'm just saying, so it's you and at least on average 3 to maybe 4 other people.
Yeah. My siblings in YouTube. My siblings in the algorithm. So it's been a while since we've recorded, or it hasn't. I don't know.
You've lived multiple lifetimes.
Yeah. It's been an eventful couple of weeks in my household. Everybody's fine. Don't worry about it. But it was trying. My beard's a little grayer.
Things continue to happen.
Yeah. But we did manage to give ourselves some homework for this time.
Yes.
Should we jump right into it?
Well, you either promised or threatened that yours could take up our entire episode. So we should probably, as you say, get right to it. Should I do mine first then?
Sure, go for it. Yeah. I guess we should insert the clip now of the prompt, right?
Yes, which we will do right here.
Present a Spiralbound one.
Oh, great. Easy. I can do that. And that was a short one, just to say, pick something that's Spiralbound, if I recall. Because that's what I did. If there was anything else on it, I didn't do it.
No, that was just it. I have looking at my collection around me, I saw a lot of Spiralbound books, and I mean, not a lot. I should say more than you normally see. that like if you look at a library, you tend not to see Spiralbound books. So I was like, seems like a good thing. But also, it is an aesthetic of an era for me. Like I feel like it's a good format for a role-playing game. I'll just say that. Like there's not enough Spiralbound, especially if you have like just things that need to be referenced quite a bit.
There's a long-running tension, and I say this as someone who published my first game as a Spiralbound. I did two versions. I did one that was Spiralbound and black and white printing, so it could be cheaper, and then I did one that was perfect bound color, right? So that was like more of a premium edition. Spiralbound books are just way easier to play with because they lie flat. Yeah. There's really easy to flip. You can turn that page around, flop it over, like all those things are great. They are horrible to shelve. So like that's the tension, right? They're great to play with, horrible to shelve. They also are either intentionally or not nodding to a certain aesthetic generally. Yeah. And as time has gone on, people would rather fill their shelves with beautiful hardbound books than have a backpack full of spiral-bound, plastic covered.
But think of it, you don't need a backpack. If you got spiral-bound, all you need is like a what are they called? The clips.
No, I know what you're talking. Carabiner.
Carabiner, yes. You just need a carabiner on your belt loop, and then you can have as many spiral-bound, like a keychain of spiral-bound books. Honestly, this is the aesthetic that we should have. Like,
this is the world they took from us.
It is, right? Like you could have been like, now that is a truly true role player there. Like you saw them coming from a mile away because of the sway in their walk because of all the spiral-bound books attached to their hip.
Slapping against their leg.
Yes. Silhouette of a role player.
Yeah.
Could have had it.
I actually do have one book that solves this problem, which is and it's not what I picked. I thought about it, and then I was like, I actually don't really, I mean, I do have things to say about it, but I was not prepared to reread this whole book in preparation for this. In the late 1900s, the White Wolf series of games, I'm on record as saying that Aberrant, their superhero game, is one of my favorite games of that type. So that was part of a trilogy of game lines that were loosely connected. Not even they weren't loosely, they were connected. They were part of a ongoing continuity, of course. That Aberrant was the first one published, but the timeline order was Adventure ! Which is like a two-fisted pulp beat 'em up 20s game. Aberrant, which is the superheroes in the real world game, and then Aeon Trinity, which I think had to get renamed due to some copyright thing at some point. So I think it was just Aeon, and then I think there was already a game called Aeon, so it had to be named.
That makes sense.
Aeon Trinity, and that's like psychics in the future game.
Yeah.
We are now out in space, and people have psychic powers and whatever. Anyway, one edition of Aeon is a spiral-bound book in a plastic clamshell cover.
Yes.
So it does sit on the shelf, and the spirals kind of poke out of the clamshell just a tiny little bit, like for function.
Yeah.
But once you open it, it's just like so it's just like a black.
It lays flat.
Yeah, it lays flat, and then it has the big binder in the middle. Very clever. Totally solves both things. It does give you a plastic cover, which like works for this sci-fi game. Doesn't necessarily work for everything. Anyway, I was not prepared to review Aeon and talk about it.
You do lose the
copy aesthetic.
Well, you also lose the fold over.
You also can't fold it over.
Yeah,
but it does lay flat.
And that's mainly what it's just wonderful about it. Like you open it to a page that you have to reference, and it just stays open at the table. You don't need a GM screen.
There are lay flat bindings, right? That for hardcover bindings, but those are more expensive. And then the other thing you could do is do them like kids' board books, but then that limits how thick, how much content you can actually have, because the hinge of those can only be so wide. Anyway.
Oh, and we should also, before we jump into this, we should shout out to the kissing cousin of the Spiralbound, which is the 3-ring binder.
Like Monster Manual and
the second edition Monster Manuals, and another sort of style that we didn't get enough of, I think. Now, both Spiralbound and I think 3-ring binder more than Spiralbound. 3-ring binder has the advantage of like you can reorder the sheets. You can put new ones in or that. I'm going to put advantage in quotes. It's a feature, like a software feature. Like I think I dropped some sheets at one point, and but they do kind of tear more, and that's actually a little bit of a
you have to start investing in those little
circles, the sticker circles.
Yep. I went to school in the 90s. I remember.
Yeah. I mean, like Trapper Keeper.
It's the perfect format for role-playing games.
Yeah, they should have just cornered that market way back when.
But no, people want art books for some reason.
They can make a comeback. Did you? I didn't mean this in any way, but like you saw the post that I saw this Spiralbound notebook at the grocery store that had like just my aesthetic. Just my aesthetic. It was the colors I love. It was just like a desert landscape, but it said Wanderlust in 70s rock band font. And
I rebloosed.
Yeah, you rebloosed. And I think after underneath it said Desert Dreamin'.
Yep.
If this were a role-playing game, I was sold. I was almost sold on it being a blank notebook that I could just write a role-playing game in.
Right.
I think it was like $9, and I'm like, I'm not into dropping $9 on just maybe I'll go back and get it.
I mean, maybe if it was a greeting card. Anyway, all this is to say, I have a small library of Spiralbound games I did not pick. So Aeon was one of them. Couldn't do my own, obviously. I already did Little Gray Cells, which I don't remember if I mentioned when we did that one, when I did that one for homework, but they're all Spiralbound, which, again, is nice in terms of flipping through them and finding things and referencing. On the shelf, it is a little difficult because it's just a bundle of spirals and they're all shoved out from everything around them, right? Like, this is the problem. I do have the earliest version of Inspectors, which is Spiralbound, with the clear plastic cover, like your employee handbook that you get.
The manual.
Mediocre office job. So like that was very good. I also have the Perfect Bound one. And then I have Mechaton.
Oh yes, got that on my shelf too. Yeah,
at least a print version of it is a Spiralbound one. So anyway, that's a play out miniature fights with your Legos game.
I was just now going by the name of Mobile Frame Zero.
Right,
I think is the
current iteration of that. Yeah. Anyway, so those are all the games I didn't do. Here's the one that I did do.
Oh, I'm so excited! Can't wait to see it. Oh, I don't know. This is gorgeous. Oh, I do know this one.
I think you'll know this once I start talking about it.
Yeah, bound at the top.
It's bound at the top like a notebook. This is another game from the Ashcan Front. If you'll recall, we talked about when I talked about Acts of Evil. This game is Black Cadillacs by Darcy Burgess.
Yes.
The Steel Toed edition, so called because it has these heavy covers with a riveted little plate of metal on it.
Yeah, you could hurt a person with this.
Yeah, you could hurt a person with this. It is a game about being soldiers. It is a soldier in war game. So what I discovered about this format, again, great to reference.
Yeah.
Actually a little hard to read because you flip up to go over. Yeah. So you're
flipping the book back and forth.
Yeah. And just to read like straight through, you end up opening the book like you have like a page flapping up and
big vertical
reading down the whole thing. Or you're flipping it over all the time. It is not that big of a deal, especially this is a very spare layout where he uses similar, I think he calls out, inspired by what Paul did with Acts of Evil. He uses uses a half column to put designer notes and questions, and then all the game text is on the other side. So it's not a lot of text, but it was interesting to get to sit down to like read it and be like, oh, this is a format thing that really matters.
It's funny because like we talk about the Spiralbound being like a nice cheap way to print a book, especially back before print on demand became a real thing, right?
Yeah.
That was the the Kinko's. I'm going to make my print run a Kinko's method. But this one is not.
Yeah, this is more of a special edition kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is, let's see, you play soldiers during wartime. It's bloody and heroic and tense and horrifying. And then you tell the stories of what happened to you. As players, you see everything, what happened and how it got told to family, friends, loved ones, and to fellow soldiers. In the gap between what happened and how it got told is the most powerful humanity you'll ever play. This is a very 4G game. I feel confident saying that. 2008.
When I said the Spiralbound aesthetic was of an era, I wasn't talking about Aberrant. I was talking about Forge.
Where to start with this game? So like I said, it's from the Ashcan Front. So this was a in-progress game that Darcy was looking to get more extensive feedback on and have specific questions about certain things in the game. So that's, the context for this particular book as I'm reading it. There's a couple levels of the game. One is it's very specifically cinematic, like it's explained in cinematic terms, and it has a framing mechanism for playing out each mission. It's organized in missions. So there's a group of soldiers. You don't necessarily play the same character all the time, but I think it has that sense where you're going to kind of gravitate, like you're going to kind of play the character you come up with most of the time, but other people could also play that character depending on what's going on. And then there's the foe, which is like kind of the GM, but it has a very I've assessed all of the individual responsibilities that need to be done in this game, and they're apportioned thusly. This person's kind of the GM, but some GM stuff everyone can do, and then there's no character monogamy. People can just play whatever character and etc. Yeah. But you're a group of soldiers. You're playing a long-term game is multiple missions. Each mission is going to have kind of like an introduction, rising action, a conflict, falling action, and end game. Within that, there's a playmat for how you're moving dice. Okay, there's a playmat, there's dice, there's cards, and there's tokens. All
right, good. Yeah.
All right. They are all kind of involved with different parts of the game, which I like. The tokens are just for tracking.
Right.
So that's, fine. There's cards, there's a trick-taking game that you play during setup and also during the end game. And then when you get into conflicts, that's when you're going to be moving dice around and rolling dice. There is continuity between what you do with the dice and some options you have for your cards. There's certainly an element of system knowledge and mastery where if someone teaches you the game and you're sitting there and you're playing for the first time, you're just going to kind of do what you want, what you think makes sense in the moment. And then when you get to that end game, you might be like, oh, now I see why I had the option to buy a card to put in my hand during the earlier part of the game. Even though you said it'll matter later, now I see why it matters. So then next time you would look for those opportunities. So it has kind of that strategic level of decision making.
Right, yeah. Rewarding multiple playthroughs with that good feeling of I've learned something. I get to implement it.
Yeah. But it is pretty mechanically I don't know if it's complex, but it's complicated, right? Again, to use some 4G terms, I think this is an Emily invention actually, but I would say it has high points of contact. You have lots of times you're doing things with mechanics, even if the individual mechanics are not particularly complex. So what is all this in service of? This is all in service of playing out these kind of episodic stories of this group of soldiers. You can play in a historical war, you can play in you can make up a fantasy war or an alt history situation. That's not important. The context of being in war and having these strains on the characters, the soldier characters, is what is important. There's a very clever part of the packaging here. So the last part has the playmat that's kind of riveted in.
Oh, yeah.
And so you can tear it out to play. Yeah, so that's very nice. Very helpful for referencing if you don't pull it out.
Yeah, I do like the physical design of this game.
Yeah, the physical Ashcan is very thoughtful and be very hard to do at scale. I believe this is like printed locally, and he handmade the covers, and I think gave them to the print shop to like bind and everything. So anyway, but the strains that happen to the soldiers give you points in these pools of horror, valor, and hubris.
Yeah.
That's the axis of the storytelling.
Yeah.
It's like these characters gaining and losing, horror, valor, and hubris in the context of these missions. And then there's stuff for the squad as a group gains blood from watching squad mates die. And then there's also a thing called mettle, mettle, like
something to be tested.
That individual characters get, but only once you start playing with the group, as opposed to the strains, which kind of move up and down as you play. Metal is derived from group stuff. Anyway, so that's the thematic axis, is those strains. Like the strain on your character. The goal of overall play, and this is what I think is my like arcane gem that I think is super interesting. I have the small gem, which is it's very thoughtful about the play experience, like the physical environment of the play experience. Like during the setup thing, it's like, all right, you're going to have a play mat, and here's why. You're going to have dice, and you're going to have cards, and you're going to have tokens, and here's why. You have some information about the characters, but that's actually not very important during play. Like, you need to know who they are. And there's a system for making the characters with a couple quick strokes that, disclosure, my game Carrie is cited in this book, and the way that you do burden creation for characters in Carrie is basically how you do character creation for these characters. One person writes down a name and like a basic idea, and then you give the sheet to the next person and they add something about their background. Then you give the sheet to a third person and they add a third thing, and then you get it back and you have your character. You're
not doing that blind, right? Like you're reading what the previous person did and adding. Okay,
Correct,
just want to make sure.
But then once you know who the characters are, their like stats, for lack of a better term, are basically those three things, and you don't like do much with their like character sheet during play. And I'm sure this came out of, he played it a lot with his group. Having that image in your head of like, what does this look like at the table? Like when we're all sitting here and all the stuff is on the table, what does this space look like? What are people touching? What needs to be there? How is it arranged? Like all that stuff is very clear. And I like that a lot. But the other thing, and this is again in conversation with Carrie, so of course I'd be interested in this, is there's a mechanic for making memories. At the largest scale, you play out your mission and like stuff happens. The fiction of the game, if you will, the shared imagined space gets filled with stuff and things happen, and you have plot and you have, events. Between sessions, each player is charged with making a memory, which is telling a story from the session kind of in your own words. Like, what is the thing that you took away from that mission, and turning it into a story the way that we all do, like when you're telling a story that happened at the table, right? You're always eliding certain things or skipping over something or being like, well, we all knew that this was what was going to happen, or like, oh, we had a weird flub with a die roll, but we moved past it because it wasn't that important. Like, there's always some editing that you do when you retell the event. So this game takes that, says, all right, everyone does that. You tell a story from your session, not necessarily as a character, but just in your own words. And then next time you play, you can call on memories to give yourself basically a bonus during the conflict resolution to get more dice or whatever. The intention, and I think the kind of the spark, the thing that I think makes this game interesting. I mean, it's interesting in lots of ways, but when there's a game, when you're like, oh, here, like when we were talking about White Whale, it's like, oh, here's the thing the game does, and like I want it to do that. So all this other stuff might change, but like this is like the good thing.
Right, this is the bit.
In this game, the memories thing is like the bit. It's like you are going to play a game and have that experience. You're going to translate that experience, and then you're going to bring it back into further games. And so thematically, it's like, what are the stories that we make out of war? How do we assign meaning to these things that are essentially, may or may not have larger meaning, all that kind of stuff.
This is presumably in conversation with Tim O'Brien Just like Carrie.
Yeah.
How to Tell a True War Story, I think, is the short story.
Something like that, yeah. The Things They Carried is the Tim O'Brien book that I'm referencing.
Yeah. It's a collection of short stories. Yeah. Not autobiographical, but definitely...
but informed by his actual experiences.
Yeah, with the Vietnam War and whatnot. It's an amazing book.
Yeah, big recommend, whether, for just being a person, being a human in the world. How to Tell a True War Story is the short story.
This is a story that I read in the end of the last millennium, and I still think about it often.
He does specifically have this like cinematic sense that he tries to tell you, like he's like, think about this like a movie. And so he's specifically referencing Three Kings is one of the big influences in terms of like the visual storytelling that he's trying to capture. But yeah, he's also referencing Enemy at the Gates, Saving Private Ryan, etc. Like those are kind of some of the specific paths of glory
that are in dialogue. Like they there's that there's a quote, can't remember who it is, that says like you can't make an anti-war film.
Yeah.
No matter how hard you try and make it, it still looks cool to people.
Yeah, I forget where that comes from.
Truffaut, maybe? I don't know. You know what? I'm not gonna put quotes in.
That is a quote. I don't know who from.
King Alfred said it, like from the first century.
Yeah. I think that we noted with that one episode of the Rockford Files with the motorcycle gang, where it was like, this is an intense, sad, violent, brutal story, but this guy, the director, can't help but film a motorcycle gang in a way that makes it look cool to ride a motorcycle in a gang.
Right, exactly. Horrible villains, and also look how cool they look.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the tension.
With war movies in particular.
You can get it right in the stats, right? Like I love that the valor, hubris, and horror, the tension right in there is great.
This isn't really a critical reading. I think this is definitely I would have more intelligent things to say about the mechanics after playing it. There's a lot of moving parts. There's some interesting probability stuff that I'll just mention for our math heads without really having an opinion on it myself, which is the core resolution. You're on opposed sides of a conflict. The foe is rolling some dice. So there's the soldiers are characters, and then the players is one's the foe and everyone else is an ally. So the foe is rolling dice and the ally is rolling dice. And you're going to have a pool of 1 to 3 dice, and then you can get extra dice from some stuff. So maybe 1 to 5, say, D6s. You roll them. Highest individual die wins, unless there's a match. So if you have 1 6 and I have 2 1s, I win because I have a single match.
Oh, right. Okay.
If I have a match of 2 dice and you have a match of 3 dice, you win. So if I have 2 6s and you have 3 1s, you win because your match is bigger than my match.
All right. So it's a little poker handy, right? Like it's a little like in poker, if you get 3 of a kind, it's better than 2 of a kind. But if you don't have any of those, then the highest card wins.
Yeah. But it's just a single roll. So you want the bigger pool because you want to get increase your chance for matches. But then if you tie, you then both roll individual dice until you break the tie and just add them to your pool there. So that probably has something more interesting than just tie breaking in it. I'm not sure what it is. Anyway, so that's the basic die mechanic.
Yeah, cool.
And then there's other stuff going on. Anyway, Black Cadillacs, I believe it is a game that is a little bit lost to history. The publisher, website no longer exists. There are archive threads about it on the Forge. I don't know if there was ever a digital. I'll see if I can hunt up a legit link to a digital version, and I'll link it in the show notes if it exists. But one of those things that happened a lot in that time. Cool game, kind of got to a certain point, and then it is now almost 20 years later, and nothing is forever. Black Cadillacs, which is apparently is a Canadian, specifically he's Canadian. I guess that's specifically a Canadian reference to combat boots.
Oh, okay.
Which I only know from this game.
Yeah, I don't think I would have known about it. Yeah, that's really cool. I dig it. I keep, obviously our listeners don't see this happening, but I keep leaning over to check my shelf because the moment you showed it to me, I had the sense memory of holding it. Mm-hmm. I don't remember reading it, so I'm wondering if like M had a copy of the game, or maybe I just held it at a Gen Con once. Sometimes you just hold things. Yeah, I could feel the cover in my hands. Like I definitely had that game in my hands at one point. I really dig, I mean, years on now, but I really dig the Ashcan Front. Mm-hmm. These sort of design artifacts, I think, are nice. I mean, we have them today in a digital format. People will, like, post blogs about their designs and things, but, like, I
think the functional goal of the Ashcan Front, I think, is people do achieve now with things like with like itch funding and stuff like that. I mean, not even just like you can't just put stuff on itch, obviously, but there's, in terms of, and also like with like game jams and stuff like that, kind of this idea of having this focused, I'm working out an idea and I want to put it in front of people and get feedback on it. You can achieve that digitally in a way that was a little harder at the time. But it is kind of, I think, a unique feature that is no longer part of the greater, or I don't know, is no longer part of the scene, for whatever the scene is, was the idea of taking these, making them into print things that you sold to people to heighten the perceived value so that people are more invested in it to actually play it.
And they're supporting you, right?
And support you. So I guess crowdfunding has kind of taken over that part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it. I mean, we've talked about it on an earlier episode because it is a thing that was formative in our years, and also we have a lot of Ashcan sitting in our collections. Yeah.
Anyway, so I've taken up plenty of time, so hopefully you don't have anything to say about yours, which I
have nothing to say about mine. Okay, so I had a journey where we were just talking about seeing the sea of spiral notebooks, right? Again, not an excessive amount of them, but more than you would expect on bookshelves. And I actually had this moment of like worry because of the compounding factor here. Both you and I have large collections. In previous homeworks, we've said things that narrow that collection. And I never thought, it'll narrow it to the point where we might end up picking the same game, right? But there is this confounding factor that like a disproportionate number of the spiral notebooks are from this particular era.
Yeah.
And in fact, going to my bookshelf and grabbing spiral notebooks up, I kept pulling Kill Puppy for Satan's out of my bookshelf. Like I've got more than I thought. I mean, this is from Emily and I combining our collections, but like, and so I spent some time. I read some of these. I enjoyed a lot of them, whatever. But then,
quick shout out to Kill Puppies for Satan. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, and there's like a bunch of them. Like I got Primetime Adventures, Galactic, both by I think they're both by Matt Wilson.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of them. Nine Worlds, another interesting one. That was
that's Matt
Snyder.
Yeah.
Oh,
I only have the Perfect Bound one of that. I didn't know.
See, yeah.
He probably had an Ashcan that I missed.
But then it occurred to me late last week that I have one that you might not have, so I can avoid this altogether. And it turns out this one also solves the shelving problem that you're talking about, and that's why it didn't immediately pop to mind. And that is, of course, the box set of Tunnels and Trolls 7.5 edition, the books for which are all spiral bound.
But they live in a box.
Now, this is, I mean, look at the size of it. Like, my hand is bigger than this book.
B5? Is that that little or something?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah, hold on. I got tape measures. The box comes with a couple of these books, obviously, because you want your monsters in a separate book.
Obviously.
And some dice. Yeah, lots of good stuff like that. Tiny dice. 7 by 5. Not counting the spiral. It is... Okay, so this is 7.5 edition. So, I'm going to talk about Tunnels and Trolls. I'm going to talk specifically about 7.5 edition, but it's impossible for me to talk about Tunnels and Trolls and not...
Oh, sorry. For those following along at home, that's probably, you said it's like 7 by 5?
Yeah.
That would probably be B6 would probably be the.
There we go.
Yeah.
The Tunnels and Trolls is if you start counting role playing games at Dungeons and Dragons, Tunnels and Trolls is probably number 2. It's probably the second one. So it's old. It goes back a ways. It has a long and deep history because of that. And it has a long and deep history in my own personal culture of play. And sometimes it's very hard for me to separate the game that I play at my table from the game that is in the rulebooks. Tunnels and Trolls specifically muddies those waters because, like a lot of games, it does the whole, make this what you want. Like, you get to make these things, however you want to make them. I would argue, though I won't do it here, but if somebody wants to, just buy me a drink, I will argue for them. That its design is actually well designed for letting people run with the rules and do their own thing. We'll hint at it a little bit when I get to my arcane gem, but more so than, say, a D&D, the kinds of games that people often are like, this is so you could do whatever you want with this game. But again, I'm not going to really get into that. This is 7.5 edition, which comes after the 30th anniversary edition, which comes after the 5.5 edition. Tunnels and Trolls editions are weird. You can look into the history of it. It includes, the 30th anniversary edition was probably the 7th edition. There was, somebody without permission made their own Tunnels and Trolls and published it as the 6th edition of Tunnels and Trolls.
Yeah.
I don't know the whole history of it, so I'm not going to talk on it. It seems wild, but I've personally had similar experiences of hearing rumors of someone who is not me or Nat planning to publish a 2nd edition of Dread. That's not true. If you hear from it's so it's this stuff happens. Anyways, let's see here. I don't want to just tell everyone everything about. Oh wait, okay. Let me give a warning. But I have had personal experience with the big names, not really direct experience, but I've talked to Liz Danforth and I've talked to Rick Loomis, who has passed away, and I've talked to Ken St. Andre, and 2/3 of those people are wonderful, and I enjoy talking to them. One of them was very weird to me and treated me very poorly at some point. I really enjoyed my interactions with Liz Danforth and Rick Loomis. So, Tunnels and Trolls is a fantasy role-playing game very much in the style you're thinking of. You make characters by having, you have stats, ability scores, whatever. I think they're called attributes. Strength, constitution, dexterity, intelligence, luck, charisma. In this edition, wizardry. And then you also have height and weight. Those aren't necessarily stats, but the thing is in this game, you're going to roll, I think, 3d6 for them and then multiply it by a number. So if you're used to the more D&D range where everything is kind of tightened down in that 3 to 18, just know that your dwarf is multiplying their strength by 2. So they might, instead of having a strength of 12, they have a strength of 24. You have a fairy here who will be multiplying their strength by 0.25. So they might end up with a fraction of a point in strength. This is kind of important they have in this book in particular, they have I'm just showing this to Nathan, but you have a little chart of the standard characters, kindred. They're called dwarf, elf, fairy, hob, which is just a halfling, a hobbit, or leprechaun. And then humans every multiplier for a human is a 1, so they're just not on that list. And then it's got a 2-page spread of just rare kindred. They're Balrog, which is a Balrog, centaur, dragon, harpy, mountain troll, naga, minotaur, living statue, vampire, Uruk. So anyways, the point is, for instance, the dragon here has a multiplier of 25 on their strength. You roll 3d6 and you multiply it by 25.
Very strong.
So you can have this incredible range. Now, I've never played a game where I was anyone who wants to, you could play any of the kindred. So if you want to be a dragon, you could be a dragon. Though I do think it would be fun to play one where it's let's all be dragons. Let's do that. The game has that kind of open-ended to its math, where everything kind of just keeps going forward and gets bigger. You make rolls. They call them saving throws, but this is what you would expect from like just a normal ability roll or something in another game. Saving throw has a level to it, and that level will determine the number that you have to roll higher than. And what you do is you roll 2d6, you add your full-on ability score, and if you're higher than that number, then you succeed. If you roll doubles on your 2d6, you get to roll again and add it to it, so you can kind of keep exploding as long as you keep rolling those doubles. A level 1 saving throw, you have to get higher than a 20. A level 2 is a 25. They just go up by 1 each time after that. None of this is like necessary to understand the game, except I just kind of want to get across that like it is just so open-ended on the top. There's no top to it. You could just keep going. You could just keep adding levels to your saving throws to make things like, oh, you want to shove the continent into place. That's a level 100 saving throw. We can figure out what that is. And 515, I think. And if you're a dragon, you might be able to pull that off, right? Like you might be able to make that roll. There are not like a ton of guidelines over like very specific roles like we're kind of used to nowadays, especially in the D&D vein, where they're like, if you want to make a jump, you make this roll, and if you make, depending on what your result is, that's how many feet you jump forward, or something like that. Those don't exist here, so you get more into like at the table you kind of decide what it should be roughly, and they can change kind of willy-nilly. You don't necessarily have to keep the game master. Oh man, what do they call it? Do they call game master or referee?
Troll master.
Probably troll master. Like that seems very
TM.
TM. Yeah, TM. Anyways, like they're not necessarily have to be consistent, because jumping over a chasm in a dungeon is different than jumping over a river outdoors. Like even if it's the same distance, like it's the conditions are different. What I want to get to though, and this isn't the saving throw isn't the arcane gem though, and there are arcane gems in there. That's for people to discover. I could do long threads. What I want to talk about is combat, because combat, this is the point where I'm like, as often as other dudes think of the Roman Empire, I think of an alternate history in which Tunnels and Trolls was the foundational text for our hobby. And it's because of this combat system. This combat system, I could just kind of give it to you in a nutshell. You're going to have weapons that just endless tables of weapons, which is like wonderful in a Spiralbound. You can just all these full swords, so many different swords. Wonderful. It honestly feels like a Dark Souls. And they'll tell you how many dice you're going to roll, and they'll give you what are called adds, which is just what you add to the dice when you roll. These are all 6-sided dice, nothing but 6-sided dice. You also get adds based on your ability scores, specifically your strength, luck, and speed, I think. Hold on, I don't want to tell lies.
We're flipping?
Yeah. Strength, dexterity, luck, and speed. And what this is if your ability score is over 12, you subtract 12 from it, and that's the number of adds you get to add into it. If it's under 9, you subtract 9 from it, and that's how much you subtract from your roll, right? So if you have a low strength, if you have a strength of 4, you subtract 5 from your combat total. But if you have a strength of 24, you add 12 to your combat total.
So adds are arbitrary numbers. They're not like +1, +2. Like they could be any integer.
Yeah.
They're not like add 1 die or add 2 dice. They're
right. Yes.
Add to the total. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So you have a handful of dice, say 3, and you have a bunch of adds from your attributes. I can't tell you what they will be, because obviously, like I described before, if a dragon is multiplying its strength by 25, it has considerably more adds than that fairy, But nonetheless, you roll your dice, you add your adds, you have a number. You also have your allies who are working with you, and you add all of your numbers together. Your opponent is doing a similar thing where they're adding all their numbers together, and you compare these two totals. Whoever has the higher total wins the round. Their opponent takes the difference in damage.
Right.
Pretty straightforward thing. It's lots of adding, but and some subtracting, but you kind of you get the concept across. You roll a bunch of dice, add things together, they roll it. Whoever lost takes the difference in damage. There's some complications. For instance, every 6 that was rolled is a point of damage that gets through no matter what, even if you lost the battle, which is, they call that spite. That's good stuff. All right, so that's the basis of it. Why do I like this? What, Epi,
why do you like this?
Yes, thank you. Why are you like this, Epi? Because that is the baseline, and the rules are now going to say, here are some rules which read like suggestions for how to change that. Right? So, first question is, what's going on here? We're fighting in round to round? What's going on? The rules say, I think each round of combat is 6 minutes. That's a long time compared to other ones. Again, been a while since I've played this edition, so I'm just gonna double check. I'm 2 minutes. I was wrong about the 6 minutes. 2 minutes, but still 2 minutes, right?
So the concept is kind of, or at least how I would approach this, is each of these rolls is basically saying a bunch of stuff is all happening at once in it's the scramble. A bunch of stuff is happening. We know what the result is. The result is my side wins. You take 12 damage, but I'm taking 3 because of the spite or whatever.
Yes, exactly. Now, let me just read, because this actually is a fun bit of text here. That time includes all the hacking, feinting, dodging, parrying, cussing, spellcasting, fleeing, and anything else that happens in combat. We don't count every blow and parry.
Right.
People don't line up in initiative order to get their licks in. It is usually a wild, confused melee. Yes, that's exactly it.
So the idea is not, we're going to be rolling this over and over and over until one side is dead. The idea is, all right, we have the fight, here's the outcome.
Yes. And then you have this moment of do we continue this
fight? We still fighting? Yeah. Especially if they're wildly mismatched, right?
Right. Let me pause here and talk a little bit about the wildly mismatched thing, because this is actually kind of a neat bit to it. Mostly you're fighting monsters. Monsters have a monster rating. This is just, instead of having all those stats, the strength, the constitution, and all that, they have one single stat. It is a number. It is the number that you reduce when they take damage. You divide it by 10, and that's the number of dice it rolls in combat. You divide it by 2, and that's the number of adds it gets in combat. Those numbers go down as it takes damage.
So you calculate those each time. They're fresh each time.
Yeah. And now that's important because you, as player characters, have separate attributes, including your constitution, which is where you take damage mostly. And your constitution does not affect your combat adds. So your effectiveness remains the same, roughly, within the variation of the die roll throughout the battle, while your opponent can start way higher than you. But through spite, you start to get them to the tipping point where then you have control of the combat. Where they can no longer really put up a resistance. That's great. Also, these monster numbers are the monster ratings are easy to combine. You have a goblin, has a monster rating of 10, whatever. You have 10 goblins, we're just going to call it a monster rating of 100 and we're good to go.
Right.
But maybe you don't want to take on a monster rating of 100, so you find yourself a little tunnel where only 3 goblins at a time can get through. Now you're dealing with a monster rating of 30, which is something you can trounce pretty easily. And that's sort of the glory of this game, right? You're looking at this math puzzle. It's not a very difficult math puzzle. It's one that we can intuit most of the time. And you're saying, big number bad. What can we do in the fiction to change our positioning, our fictional positioning?
If you will.
If you will, yes. So that, speaking of, I think that's another one from Emily, but I'm not entirely sure. But definitely Forge era. But what can we do to change our strategic setup here so that we can force those numbers into smaller numbers, numbers that we can deal with more readily? And then also, on the opposite side of that, the referee, troll master, whatever we're called here, sends 3 goblins in and they just get slaughtered in that one round. the very next round, they're like, maybe we don't send 3 goblins in.
Right.
And now you're in a tunnel and they're in the room and you're having a negotiation because you can't enter the room without them slaughtering you, but they can't enter the tunnel without you slaughtering them. And those are the moments, like those, that falls so naturally from this very simple combat system. That alone is my arcane gem, right? Like that, like those moments, just made for these fun fictional. How do we get the guards away from the sorcerer? How do we do this or how do we do that? There's like so I was saying before that you have like this is a melee that takes 2 minutes. And you're thinking, all right, but Epi, what if I have a bow and arrow? What's going on here? How does that interact with it? And my answer to you is, well, their rules, they're a little vague, and that's a good thing. You should embrace that. Like, I know you're tensing up inside. I do too. But the bow and arrow, during this 2 minutes, you're going to fire once. You're going to pick a target. You're going to, maybe your target is not like a single person, but like a group of people, because that is literally how combat worked back in the Middle Ages. Like, you're going to make a saving throw based on the distance. If you succeed at that saving throw, then you do your damage to the opponent. Like, it just goes in. If you fail it, then you miss and you don't do. That's the sort of like trade-off or whatever that you're making. But your damage is like, this is where it gets like a little vague. Like, does it just go through? Does it just do it? Or does it add to your side's hit point total? And again, this is me, like, I can't separate my culture of play from the specific rules in this book because I can't remember, what. But like, I know that there are people who have distinct answers, and I think the best answer is it depends on the situation. It depends on what the players are trying to do. If you're just shooting into a melee just to help your allies out, making
the others like duck and cover, you're just adding
add it to your total.
But if you're like trying to snipe the goblin chieftain,
exactly,
to break their morale or something, that's a different call.
Yeah. And that's a negotiation at the table, and I love it. I love that, and it's a thing that I've been chasing for a while in my own design. There was like one other thing about the combat that I just wanted to point out, and I'm damage. I'd read these rules as closely as I could. I don't know if these rules are the ones that state this, but it appears from the examples of play in these rules, again in the 7.5 edition, that this is how they're doing it. What does it mean when your side takes damage? It means that you have a certain amount of damage that you have to divvy up amongst all of your combatants who are taking place in that melee. Now, note our Robin Hood guy with his bow and arrow. He might not have to take any of this damage. Like, he's too far away for that to matter. Or maybe they have archers, and so maybe you could too. But like, the divvying up by default is just evenly. But the way I've played it, the way it seems to come out in the examples of play, is that you look at the situation and you're like, hey, you described these brutes on your team going in the forefront. Maybe they take more of the damage than everyone else. Or maybe I just, as the TM, the referee, whatever, I hand the damage over to you and say, you figure out how to divvy it up, and you tell us what. Because some of you got shields and armor, and you're looking to like let it hit all that. This is what lets that fairy. You've got like a fairy who multiplied their con by times 1/4. They multiplied their strength by times 1/4. So, they might have a constitution of 3. They could take 3 hit points of damage. And they might be rolling 1 die -2, to contribute to the battle. Does that mean they sit it out? No, because they can get in there. And if you're all like, we never ever let the fairy take any damage. We don't, unless somebody strategically tries to isolate the fairy and do something to it. We'll just throw our shields up. We're just going to get in the way. We just imagine that the fairy's just darting about. They're a fairy. They're this big. And because they're rolling at least something, and they're going to give you, what did I say, -2? So like 0 to 4 points every round. You're not going to give up those 0 to 4 points.
Right.
They won't ever be the hero of the battle, but they don't get left behind. And in the other model, the model we did base our entire tradition on.
Mm-hmm.
When you're rolling to hit, and that's separate from the damage, and it's individuals against individuals, you end up in this situation where you have like, can you roll enough to actually hit your opponent's armor class? Can you do enough damage for it to matter? Do you have a high enough armor class to not get hit every single time? Do you have enough hit points to survive all the times you hit? You know, all of these factors, you can end up writing scenarios, you can end up in battles that just ice out a certain number of players, unless you're very careful about your design.
There's like the classic, like, my level 1 wizard got killed by a rat. Right, like,
right.
People run into this. It's a story that happens over and over, because it's like, my wizard only has 2 hit points, and every creature in the game does at least a D2 damage or whatever, right? And like, in that model, once you're at a higher level, that part stops being as much of an issue. But then a lot of the encounter design starts revolving around, like, the characters have certain powers and abilities, so my encounter needs to be able to accommodate those powers and present threat without being totally focused on the weak point and just blowing the wizard out of the water or whatever. The Tunnels and Trolls model devolves that from the encounter design level to the in the moment as you're playing level.
Yeah, what is happening in your fiction?
Right.
Yeah.
Because like, if the referee has goblin wizards who all they're doing is trying to suppress the player's wizard, now you have a fictional situation where maybe the other characters are like, well, we're going to take out the goblin wizards, so that frees up our wizard. So that like creates a reason to say, so I'm going to take the damage instead of the wizard, etc., whatever. Yeah. You know, and you go from there. And it's not on the encounter design level of like, I give this NPC a ring of magic resistance so that, because I know that the party has a wizard with this DC of etc.
Yeah. Like, I have sour memories of playing 3rd edition where, you know, I got excited about. I think like one of the feats allows you to have a companion, just like a buddy that runs around with you, and you sword fight together. It's a common trope, and like, I can't remember what it was, but the companion is like 2 or 3 levels below you, because they can't let you have 2 characters. That would break the thing. 2 characters at the same level, but like, if it's 2 levels below you, that was just often just enough for that to not really matter. They're just there to kind of help you flank, and then they're still like brittle in your, whereas in this mess of they're like, here's a simple ball of rules that like you can untangle however you want. It just presents these really fun, at least in my experience, these really fun negotiations where like the players will start going like, okay, wait a minute, what we need to do is we need to figure out how to reduce these numbers without rolling, before we make any rolls, because once we make rolls, we're gonna not care for the consequences. There's also like some fun things in this edition where the spike damage that I was telling you about, like a lot of the monsters in the monster manual are like, this is a power it has when it has rolled this much spike.
Sure. Yeah, which is, you can hang things on that
a fun thing.
Model. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So anyways, I love Tunnels and Trolls.
We finally had a reason to talk about it.
We had a reason to talk about it. I can't separate the different editions. I'm excited to see what the new edition's going to be. That's by a whole different group of people. I think it's Rebellion that's going to put that out. I don't know anything about that one. I do have the edition that came after this, though, the Ultimate Edition, which is now the Penultimate Edition. I don't. They have weird names for their editions.
Sure.
It's called the Deluxe Edition. I apologize. If we learned anything about Tunnels and Trolls, that's what we learned.
Well, we do have so many more things we could learn about Tunnels and Trolls, and Tunnels and Trolls, the game. But there's only so much time that we have to talk on these mics, so we should probably wrap up our homework. A fertile ground of very different games.
Yeah, very different. But siblings in the spiral.
Yes, siblings in the spiral. I had a thought for homework for next time.
Oh, yeah.
A bit more of a quest style.
Oh, this is fun.
All right. So, and maybe we can sharpen this up right now. Take a game that you enjoy, like, approve of, that has at least some acknowledgments or a ludography or some kind of references to inspirational work. And then pick one of those that, I guess, I'm not quite sure where to end it, but it's like, I was thinking, like, if it leads to, so pick one that's also in your library and look at those references. And then
goes far back as you can in your own library.
Maybe, go as far back as you can, or go to when you hit one where you're like, oh, I don't remember this game, or I haven't read it, or whatever.
Right.
Like, go until you hit something that feels like a discovery. And, that might take you into, like, digital titles or whatever. I anticipate that there may be a couple attempts at it because of, not all games have references.
I will probably allow, like, well-known references, even if they're not in the book itself.
Sure. Even if it does not specifically say Apocalypse World, if you have a PBTA game, Apocalypse World counts.
Exactly.
But, this is a bit of an experimental one, but it was just a thought I had of, like, following some kind of trail until you get to a point where you're like, oh, this game.
I'll do it. Yeah, I'm excited about this.
We'll see if that works.
See if we can make it happen.
Yeah, we'll check in about it before we record next time, and if it's not resulting in something useful, we'll pivot.
Yeah, that sounds good. We'll just pivot to the most interesting one you check to see if you can find, because that depth may be 0, right? Like it has a ludography. That's enough.
And I think I'd also allow if there's something listed that you're like, oh, that's a game that pings something for me, but I do not have, if it is within the realm to pick up a new game because it is referenced. I think we're
getting dangerous.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, I'm in for it now. Yeah. Now I'm going to deliberately look for games that reference games that I've been meaning to find an excuse to pick up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's for work.
Yeah.
So
it's for work. It's a homework quest. Let's do it.
Yes, we'll embark on Homework Quest. Well, hopefully you two will join us for Homework Quest next time we embark upon these journeys within these Unwritten Earths.
Mm-hmm.
If you out there happen to have a chance to look through some of your references and follow a chain to something interesting, tell us in the Discord. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Even if you just have a chain to show us.
Yeah.
That would be very helpful to my own homework
that
quest.
also might be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Until then, you can find us at all the places that are linked from unwrittenearths.com. That is the place to find the links to all of our things. Leave us a rating or review wherever you listen to the podcast. That helps, I'm told. I have not checked to see if we have any reviews yet. Maybe I'll do that. And if we have a review, if we have a nice review, a nice 5-star review, we'll do that on the show. This podcast is by us. Go us. Our music is by Will Yobst of Will.com fame. You can find Will's games over at goodluckpress.co. This was a big homework episode, so I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one. But Epi, have we designed a game yet?
No, I'm going back to the drawing board.
I'm going back to the Spiralbound notebook.